So, I have a question for you, my fair audience. Have you ever sat down and thought about how much the gaming industry has changed since gaming hit the mainstream during the 80s and 90s? And I'm not even talking aesthetics or anything. That one's kind of a given. This just in, new games got the graphics. No, I'm referring to the companies that release the games. More specifically, how cutthroat the industry used to be. Emphasis on used to be. Not to imply that the quarterly numbers don't have to be met and the loot boxes don't have to be pushed. The pursuit of that sweet, sweet coin is still very much a factor in today's games industry. But it's not as, let's say, violent as it once was. Companies used to constantly wage these battles of who could move the most hardware or sell the most titles through any means necessary, but most famously, flaming the fuck out of the competition. I mean, do you remember 90s console advertisements? Nintendo what genus is, or something cheesy like that, and then they slap a big old logo on the screen. Bing bang boom, buy Freddy Fish 3 now in stores. But that doesn't really happen anymore, right? Even rival companies like Sony and Xbox have been known to share their MySpace passwords so players all over the world can answer the Call of Duty together. There isn't any more vitriolic rivalry, but I wonder why that is. Again, take Mario for instance. Everyone and their grandpa knows about the 16-bit generation of consoles competing for literally everything except the number of buttons. And we had a whole video on button layouts. I'm not kidding. Go watch it right here up in the top corner. We talk more popping buttons than an undersized button up. But see, that was a big deal back then. When Sega came onto the scene, they started to give consumers a legitimate choice in what system and in turn what games they wanted to play. Suddenly, we had two titanic mascots on the scene. And if history has proven anything, it's that there's only one way to solve the problem of two mascots. Ew, no, what? No, take that back. It's disgusting. And back then, there were several different avenues that publishers like Sega and Nintendo would take to make their console the one that you should buy. Well, depending on what you're looking for. Not only in the form of system-selling exclusives backed by the then popular mascot platformer, see Bubsy and Oscar for more information, colorful characters and distinct addictive gameplay was the idea, and Mario has that. But sorry Sonic, I like using buttons other than the right D-pad to win my games. But speaking of pods,
and this is just one of the 40,000 rooms in Aaron Spelling's house.
Ports of different games could also be different depending on your console of choice. This was during an era when sometimes two cartridges with the exact same title were actually wholesale separate games from one another, with just the console you were taking your home on making the difference. Take a couple of the Disney games as an example. Aladdin for both SNES and Genesis is a good starting point. Both versions are considered to be great games, but there are so many differences, and it's apparent as soon as the first time you boot it up. The Genesis port obviously has the Super Nintendo outclassed in looks. I mean, dang, look at those pixels. But looks ain't everything. Sometimes you feel bad that your prom date didn't win Homecoming Queen, but then she hits you with that, "Who's your Smash main?" and suddenly you know you're home. And that's what SNES Aladdin is. Annie Hathaway from The Princess Diaries. Aladdin on the Genesis is cheap. That was the whole thing there. Jesus Christ. But then you look at The Lion King and both versions are fairly similar to each other. Interesting enough, that kind of situation isn't unheard of even today, with the PS2 release of Star Wars The Force Unleashed being vastly different from its HD contemporaries. It's just in this case, it wasn't separate publishers both utilizing a license at the same time, simply a difference in design priorities for different hardware. So, yeah. Next, let's look at some downgrades for titles around this era. We all know Mommy doesn't like Mortal Kombat because it's too violent and bloody. But what about SNES Mortal Kombat? No blood, no fuss. For whatever reason, there was no blood in vanilla MK on the IRL SNES. But once again, the old saying goes, Genesis blood, what Nintendon't. In this regard, the Genesis was often pushed as the more hardcore gaming machine with the guts to give everyone the sprite-based blood and gore they would be missing on that baby console over there.
That's like a baby's toy.
Stepping into the post-16-bit era, companies just seemed to stop competing in this way. The next generation of disc-based systems like the Dreamcast, PSX, and to a lesser extent the N64 were able to share games amicably at this point. Some titles that dropped exclusively on one machine were developed alongside a contemporary build for other consoles. Anyone remember Doom on the PS1? That game, not quite a port in its own right, never saw release on another machine. But N64 fans weren't left out of the demon killing because they got a slick 3D title released in the form of Doom 64, and there was peace in the land. We would get games like Spider-Man where no substantial changes were made, except the PC port is broken, please fix it. And games where the content is all there, but cutscenes had to be, let's say, tweaked, like with these boys over here. But, like I said, gaming was moving out of its angsty phase, and companies weren't being all that mean anymore. Until Nintendo decided that they wanted every game to only be on their tiny purple lunchbox, that is. The GameCube is the biggest flex I remember from being a wee lad into video games. Yeah, Microsoft had Halo, which is a big deal. PlayStation 2 damn near outlived PlayStation 3, which is a huge deal. But Nintendo? Nah. Nintendo had Luigi's Mansion, Super Mario Sunshine, Metroid Prime, Super Smash Bros. Melee, and The Wind Waker, all within its first year as a console. Not to mention, they wrangled a timed exclusivity deal with 3 Resident Evil games, the first Dragon Ball Budokai games, both reworked Sonic Adventure games, and some other neat stuff. And what did other companies get as far as those timed exclusives go? Well, the PS2 got a port of Resident Evil 4 later on in the year, as the port didn't fall under the timing of the deal with Nintendo. It added some extra content, but is generally considered inferior graphically as a trade-off. Xbox owners got 1 Dragon Ball game, and its sagas. Yeah. Sonic fared better than you might expect on PS2 and Xbox. Gems Collection was multi-platform and offered a chance to play some obscure Sonic titles for the first time to many. And the Riders game were also big hits on PS2. Those are the only Sonic games from this console generation though. That's right, no other titles to talk about. None at all. Nope, no other ones existed, so let's please move on. So what am I even talking about? Another Sonic video? Yes, but also that consoles weren't competing over bits anymore. That's a pretty good thing too. But someone, somewhere, and his name is Reggie, decided that dangling a special exclusive goodie in gamers' faces would mean more console sales, just so they could have that special thing. Like when Soul Calibur 2 gave us 3 separate special characters depending on which console you liked more. That is, and this is a fact, pretty heckin' tight. Or when Ninja Gaiden Sigma launched with new missions from the secondary characters' perspectives, just to add new value to what was already a from-the-ground-up remake. Again, pretty slick. Or literally every console since PS2 having their own exclusive Kingdom Hearts game that's essential to understanding the entirety of the story. All of these things are hella cute, and I would definitely take them to prom cosplaying as Marth. And that's that. I kinda just wanted to talk about exclusives in gaming, specifically on consoles. I mean, we all know PC gaming has exclusive rights to being the best. Console gaming as a whole has gone through some interesting phases, however. But whether you're playing 2 different versions of Aladdin or enjoying an experience made specifically with one system in mind over another, we can all agree to have fun, be safe, and play responsibly, except on Xbox One. Hey, hi there, hello. I appreciate you sticking around to the end, man. We here at Command Prompt always like to hear from you, the audience. And we're asking you this time, do you have a favorite memory with a console exclusive? Let us know in the comment section below. We'd love to hear about it. And on a serious note, We recently got a big bump in subscribers and want to welcome you all to the channel. We hope you like our content, as we're always working hard to improve and put out interesting videos. We're not the biggest channel in the world as of yet, and as you can clearly see, but it's still so crazy for us to think about this many people stopping by and talking games with just some random guys online. And I want to give some immediate recognition to The Game Apologist and Sonic Motion. These two gentlemen don't even know who we are, but they have been extremely nice and instrumental in getting us to this small place we are now. So from the very bottom of our heart, guys, thank you so much. And thank you to you too. We really appreciate the time that you have spent watching our silly little video. Man, I better go before I get too mushy on you. But as always, I appreciate you for watching. So thanks for stopping by and have a great day.